Hello everyone, and welcome back to some more G-Senjou no Maou with me, Phantom Zwei. So, we are actually now picking up after Canon's route, and we're heading towards Shiratori's path, back on the common route. So we are actually picking back up on this little choice right here, where Canon wants to basically spill her heart to us. And rather than listening to her, we're going to avoid the subject this time. This will, take us off of Canon's route eventually. But just to kind of give you a very quick primer on where we are in the story, in case you followed through Canon's route, if you recall, this is during the point where Yuki is interrogating, I forgot his name. But anyway, Mao's henchmen that they captured. She's interrogating them. In Canon's route, he is, he's killed because he taunts the Yakuza holding him. Things will play out differently in the common route here. So, we'll avoid the subject. Sorry, Canon. I really like you, actually. I cleared my throat. Sorry, Canon. But can it wait for another time?
So?
Yes, I'm sorry. I tried to be as cold as possible.
わかったよ。ごめんね。変なふりして。
Like you said, I'm pretty busy.
知ってる。
Okay then. Great. You should go take your bath now.
はーい。
She hurried into the changing room. I don't feel anything. The snow outside is constantly changing. It falls silently and will disappear by morning. I've always looked at Canon as a source of income. That's all. And she'll never be anything more than that. My head hurt so much that I swore my skull was about to burst. I decided to get to sleep early today. That's fucking cold. Especially, I'm actually literally recording this episode after finishing Canon's ending. So I'm like, oh no, poor Canon. But anyway, I flipped open the newspaper after seeing Canon off the next morning. Even though Canon was making the headlines in the sports section, my interests really lied elsewhere. The conflict between the Sonoyama and Shinei groups was escalating. Late last night, a firefight erupted in the vicinity of Central Boulevard. One man from Shinei was dead, and 2 Sonoyama men were in intensive care after sustaining bullet wounds. Even our legitimate businesses are suffering from this incident. Nothing piles the work on my desk like falling revenues at the clubs downtown. The stress it's giving me might be what's causing the headaches that have been brutalizing my vision. However, if Mao wanted to act, he wouldn't waste today's chance. Canon's performance doesn't start until around 8 tonight, but the sooner we get Saijou to spill the beans, the better. That's his name, Saijou. Surely no one would start a shootout in broad daylight, but I still have to be careful to make sure that I'm not targeted.
します。
Tokita isn't here yet?
ユキは朝弱いので。
It's noon, Usami. I knew any friend of hers couldn't be normal.
それより一ついいですか？
Sure, shoot.
西条が宿泊していたホテルから西条の荷物を確認してみたんですが。
Anything interesting in there?
気になるのはパスポートと航空券ですね。航空券は今日の予約でした。
He was going to flee by plane? Where was he headed?
香港行きのチケットでしたね。
So he was leaving the country? If the ticket was for today, then that must mean he was planning on taking some action today and getting the hell out immediately afterward.
ええ。そして海外まで逃げなければならないほど大きな事件を起こす気だったのです。
Something so big, the police would show up immediately?
でしょうね。
Well, if we consider the possibility that Mao may attempt to escape as well, we should set up a patrol at the airport.
そんな余裕はあるんですか？
Try watching the news for once. Yes, if you haven't noticed, we're pretty much fighting a war right now. The Sonoyama group has over 1,000 members, all on standby due to the current conflict. Of course, this figure's inflated somewhat by the inclusion of street hoodlum associates and such. But naturally, even these members aren't spared from the harsh duties during wartime. Just one moment. Sorry about that, really needed to clear my throat. How many people have been mobilized for Canon by now, I wonder?
浅井さんは弾狙われたりしないんすか？
Not many people know me by face. I've been posing as a normal student, after all.
何にしてもお気をつけて。
Don't worry. Gonzo wouldn't give a damn if I was taken hostage. I think everyone's caught onto this by now.
それはそれで寂しいお話ですね。
Why is this Joker staring at me?
お待たせ。
I heard a voice and turned around to find Tokita. Do you think you're late enough?
だって春が起こしてくれないんだもの。
いや、私は5回くらいモーニングコールしたよ。
昔は家まで迎えに来てくれたのに。
だって家知らないし。
Stop going back and forth with this crap. Let's go already. We passed through the narrow alleys of Central Boulevard and headed towards the building that hailed Saijou. Hey Tokita, don't forget what you promised yesterday, okay? Tokita flashed me a confident smile.
簡単よ。すぐに終わらせてあげる。
おい、時田、遅いじゃないか。
Same words. The moment Tokita sat down, Saijou screamed.
まったく、すぐ戻ってくるものだとばかり思っていたが、一体何の真似だ。
Tokita frowned and glanced at Saijou apologetically.
本当にすみません。私がいない間、何かありましたか？
What a clever response. The guy's not only been left alone, but he's been given booze, 3 square meals a day, and nap time. For God's sake. Anything more and he'd be in a jacuzzi at the Ritz with high-class hookers.
実は、とても残念な。
なんだ、どうした？
Tokita shook her head and let her gaze fall. After letting a good amount of time pass, she finally responded.
連中は、あなたを。その、許すつもりはないようなのです。
Saijou was speechless. Tokita's tone was full of sincerity. Yet it still bore gravity.
すみません。
She seemed to pale somewhat, as if to pretend that she'd spent the past 24 hours bargaining for his freedom. However, Tokita's words weren't a lie. It's crystal clear that Saijou isn't going to be released. Yuki was also honest when she first met Saijou, introducing herself as Usami's friend. Perhaps telling the truth is some sort of rule of negotiation.
それでも、私がここに戻ってきたのは、まだお話の途中だったからです。望みはあると思っています。そう。何か取引になるような材料さえあれば。
取引だと？
Saijou stared unblinkingly at Tokita.
ええ。あなたが許されるに足りるような材料です。
それはつまり、魔王の計画を話せということだろう。昨日も言ったが、それは。
He cut himself off.
大体、話せば助かるという保証はあるのか。
Kyousuke?
Tokita suddenly called my given name without an honorific.
どういう取り決めになっているか話してあげて。
Tokita must be trying to demonstrate her power to Saijou. So I'm forced to be the bad guy, is that it? If you don't talk, you'll be killed. However, if you tell us about Maou, this whole thing will blow over smoothly. I'm the son of the head of the Soniyama group. I'll probably inherit this position. You can take my word as the organization's word. I just pulled stuff out of my ass. Tokita, who's on a first-name basis with the son of the group's leader, turned back to Saijou.
というわけだけれど、残念ね。あなたはとても義理がたい人だから。
Saijou kept silent. Silence is probably the only thing he can manage. His pupils erratically focused on the floor as he ground his teeth.
こういうのはどうかしら。
Having used a low voice, as if whispering to him alone, Tokita immediately got his attention. Saijou's eyes quickly switched back to her as he listened intently.
西条さん、昨日の話の続きをしましょう。
At some point, she cast off her reverent and respectful diction and shifted her pose forward.
昨日の話、 覚えてるわね。
私の話だった。
そう。あなたが今日何をするつもりだったのか詳しく話してほしいの。あくまであなたがあなたの行動を話すのであって、それが例えば魔王の計画を漏らすことになったのだとしても、私にはわからないわ。
Tokita must be trying to say, I'm the only one that won't scorn you.
大丈夫よ。真実を話してくれればいいだけなんだから。真実が好きでしょ。あなたは世の中のいろんな嘘や欺瞞に疲れてる。違う？
This is probably the coup de grace. These abstract yet tangible words will inflate his sense of greatness and stimulate his pride.
お願い。これが最後よ。力を貸して。
After that came the silence. Saijou's feet started to shake. And after keeping his head hung low for so long, he finally lifted it to stare at Tokita. Will he talk? Saijou flashed me an expression of horror before relaxing his shoulders, with a look of exhaustion. At length, he opened his trembling lips.
狙いは浅井カノン。リンクに向けて爆弾を投げ込む予定だった。
A bomb? I couldn't help but scream out. Usami spoke up quickly as well.
荷物を調べさせてもらいましたが、あなたは爆弾を持っていない。
Saijou suddenly clammed up. I suppose it may have had something to do with the appearance of Usami, the target of his hatred.
詳しくお話ししてもらえるのよね、西条さん。あなたは約束は守る人でしょ。
会場で受け取る予定だった。
魔王からですね。
Saijou didn't answer, but it was as good confirmation as any.
浅井さん、フィギュアスケート会場に爆弾なんて持ち込めるんですか？
I don't know much about bombs, but can't you make pretty small ones these days? Seems like it'd be a cinch. All you have to do is stash it in your pocket and walk right in. There are searches at the entrance, but that's more for things like cameras. They won't actually do a thorough inspection of your personal belongings. Unable to control myself, I inched closer to Saijou. Why? Why Canon?
これは私の知るところではない。私はただ共に協力するだけだ。
いいえ、浅井さん。魔王の目的はずれていません。
What?
今回の脅迫事件は、もともとカノンに負けるよう指示するものでした。
So you're saying he's resorted to direct violence? I don't know too much about the power of a bomb, but if Canon's injured at all, she's done for. When? When were you planning to detonate the bomb?
詳しい手口は知らない。
Don't fuck with me! Tokita's hand stopped me.
嘘はついていないわ。
リンクに投げ込むと言いましたね。ということは、タイミングは演技前の練習の時か、演技中、カノンが現れた時ですね。
Usami also pressed herself closer to Saijou.
爆弾を受け取る予定だと。あなたは魔王と顔を合わせたことがあるんですか？
Right. How was the handoff supposed to go down?
会ったことはない。今日初めて顔を合わせるはずだった。
He scratched his nose while talking.
どこで待ち合わせる予定だったんですか？会場の中、外、
会場内だ。
売店、トイレ、客席。
それは時間が来たら連絡すると言っていた。
時間はいつ
？8時近くだ。携帯電話が鳴るまで私は客席に座って待機していればよかった。
Usami kept on nodding.
私からの最後の質問です。あなたのご友人は、たとえあなたの協力が得られなくても。
At that, Saijou cracked up.
当たり前だ、宇佐美。彼は現在のフィギュアスケートを憎んでいる。浅井カノンとかいう生意気な小娘を許すことはないだろう。
His laughter only grew louder and more maniacal, reverberating through around the dining room.
そうだ。私が喋っても意味はない。魔王は賢い。私が捕まったとしても必ず貴様らの裏をかいた作戦を用意してことに臨むだろう。魔王はもう2人も殺している。 にもかかわらず警察の手も及ばないほど有能な犯罪者だ。そうだ、私が何を言ったところで構うもんか。
It sounds as if he's trying to defend his weakness for confessing. He's killed 2 people? I pressed ever closer to Saijou. Who was the second? I thought it was only that designer.
おや、まだ知らないのか。バレエダンサーの男だ。海に突き落として殺した。
So that's what happened.
さあ、私を解放しろ。約束は守れよ、時田。
まだあるわ、西条さん。
She shook her head.
まだ話し足りないことがあるはずよ。そう。例えば魔王の風貌ね。
Saijou's eyebrow twitched.
顔を合わせたことがないというのは本当でしょう。でも待ち合わせにあたって魔王は何か自分の特徴を口にしていなかった？
いいだろう。ニット帽だ。黒のニット帽をかぶったそれで長身の男が魔王だ。
どうもありがとう。
Tokita blossomed with a gentle smile that I hadn't seen before.
さようなら。もう会うこともないでしょう。
なんだって？
Saijou's eyes widened in shock.
待て。お前？
あなたは私の春をナイフで切り裂こうとした。
Tokita spoke harshly.
嘘はついていないわよ。私は弁護士ではないのだからね。
私を救うと？
ええ。あなたは妹を殺しておいて何も顧みなかったようね。そういう人間が救われるには。
Tokita's gaze was flashing bewitchingly.
わかるでしょ？
Saijou didn't move a single inch. He just maintained that glare. All that remained was just a sad man, harshly beaten far too many times. Bye, Saijou. The sky had already started to darken.
会えて嬉しかったわ、京介くん。
Tokita wanted to shake hands with me. You were a big help. I guess I owe you one.
礼なんていいのよ。ね、アリ。
はい。
Usami was saluting for some reason.
大変な事件が起こってるみたいだけど、頑張ってね。
Tokita waved as she disappeared into the crowds of the lavish street. First things first, I'll go report to Gonzo.
浅井さん、スケートのチケットお持ちですか？
Oh right, you can have mine. Go ahead, I'll meet you there.
ひとまず会場の出入り口を見張っておくとします。
Sounds logical. Maou might already be in the arena though.
よし、じゃあ解散。
Usami ran off with an excessively high-strung voice. My entire body is sore. My fever is acting up again, and now of all times. I stormed into Gonzo's estate and quickly explained the situation.
今晩9時、親衛会の事務所を一家総出で囲む。
Oh man.
あまり人は動かず。
I realized the situation with Shin'ei is of utmost concern, but Canon's life is at risk.
乗り込みはもう連合全体に告知したことだ。俺も自ら出る。今さら取りやめられ
Right, but
この家にいるものを使え。
But are you going to be alright? Very well. I've already prepared 10 tickets, so we should be ready to move.
そっちの指揮は堀部に任せる。うまく使え。
Gonzo appeared to be on a high in the face of the upcoming hunt. I contacted Haribe and headed towards the arena. It's already near 6 o'clock. Famous skaters from overseas are battling it out on the ice, and the crowd is boiling to a heated frenzy.
浅井さん、すみません。
Though we were nearly drowning in the sea of people, I was able to meet up with Usami.
魔王らしき人物は見当たりませんでした。見落とした可能性もあります。
This crowd makes it easy to miss someone. According to Saijou's confession, Maou was supposed to be wearing something like a black wool cap, right? Except for the fact Maou probably already knows that Saijou was captured, and so he's probably not gonna wear it.
しかし、いつも被っているとは限りません。
Or at all. Right, I suppose not. Hats are pretty conspicuous.
おそらく、カノンの登場時間が近づいてからが勝負でしょう。
I understand. But first, on the off chance that Mao's somewhere nearby, let's split up and look around. He's a tall, lean young man, right?
あまり効率的とは言えませんが、今はそれしかなさそうですね。
Yeah, let's do a loop and meet back here. Horibe-san, how are things on your end? 8 Sonoyama men were scattered about the arena, including Horibe. We spoke over the phone.
いやー、無理でしょ坊ちゃん。もうちょっと特徴がつかめねえと。細身で長身の野郎なんていくらでもいますからね。
Yeah, I know. Sorry I can't give you anything else to go on.
気が焦るのはわかりますがね。また何かわかったら連絡ください。
Of course I'm anxious. After all, if I don't do something... Motherfuck. Another headache.
安西さん、どうです？
Yeah, I'm fine. Just fed up with my own stupidity.
いえいえ、やっぱりがむしゃらに動いてみるものですね。私は魔王の犯行の糸口をつかみましたよ。
What was it?
西条がどういう方法で爆弾を投げ入れるつもりだったのかということです。
I don't know. What's so special about the way he'll throw it? I tried to adjust my blurry vision by kneading the bridge of my nose.
大丈夫ですか？
Yeah. Don't worry about me. Just tell me about your epiphany.
あのお店をご覧ください。
Usami pointed in the direction of a nearby kiosk.
お花屋さんですよね。
Yeah, what about it? Usami suddenly squinted.
本当に体調が悪いみたいです。
I told you not to worry.
いいですか？西条は香港行きの航空券を持っていたんです。ということは、犯行後逃げるつもりだったわけですよね。
Sure.
ユキには悪いですが、西条の話はどうも荒唐無稽というか現実的ではないなと思っていたんです。だってリンクの上に爆弾なんて投げ入れて逃げられるわけがありません。
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. Yeah, you're probably right. There's plenty more security here today than just our Yakuza.
はい。席を立ってそんなものを投げ入れたら、まず確実に取り押さえられるでしょう。
I think I'm beginning to understand her.
しかし、さっきから会場を見ていれば、観客がリンクに近づき、自由に物を投げ入れられる瞬間があります。
I gave a firm, slow nod. The flower toss.
で、言うみたいですね。演技が終わった選手に客席から花束を投げ入れるんです。
You've really been thinking about this.
カノンは今、日本で一番人気がある選手です。演技が終われば、みんなリンク際に駆け寄ることでしょう。
And along with that flood, a bomb will be thrown onto the ice, in the guise of a bouquet of flowers. And knowing how much people love Canon, I'm sure the flowers thrown tonight will rival a small garden. Thus, it would be impossible to see who threw what. Of course, if the police were to investigate, it should be a relatively simple matter to identify the assassin. One of the trajectories in arena seating plan. But if that person flees overseas before the analysis, and comes back with analysis comes back with any results, it'll again be too difficult to chase and catch him. So, what next?
この混雑です。カノンの演技終了までに魔王を見つけられなければ、ジ・エンドです。
Easier said than done, Usami.
ひとまず花屋さんのそばを監視しておくとします。
That'll be a waste of time if he smuggled his own flowers in. And flowers aren't necessarily the only option. Fans throw stuffed animals into the rink as well.
西条は8時近くに魔王と接触する予定だったそうですね。
I guess that's when our match will be decided. The skaters are warming up around then, and the spectators are free to roam around about the arena.
しかし、
Usami shook her head, unsatisfied.
どうにも後手に回っていますね。
Like always, right? And how's that? The intel from Saijou has brought us a long way, wouldn't you say?
それはそうです。
Usami grew silent, lost in thought. What, are you scared?
いえいえ、
If you're scared, Usami, you could always escape.
知らなかったんですか？大魔王からは逃げられないんですよ。
Shh. Usami walked towards the flower stall with a smirk on her face. I need to get searching too. Canon's life is at stake, after all. She may be a little short-tempered, but she's a simple, honest girl deep down. There aren't many who understand her, but I at least have no choice but to accept her wholeheartedly. Because even if it's only in name, I'm Canon's brother. Why now? God damn it, my head hurts. Now then. I checked the hands of my watch. There's still 15 minutes before 8 o'clock. But still, all communications from Saijou have ceased. What should I make of that? Did he spill the proverbial beans of our plan? If so, how much did he tell? I suppose that's the more critical question. Did he tell them that I'd be wearing a wool cap? Oh well. I'll make my move. I will give you a glorious death. I took the cap out of my pocket and donned it as I walked down the corridor. Tensions inside were running at a record high. After all, Asai Canon would soon take to the ice. The favorite to win, bearing all of Japan's hopes and expectations, showed herself in the rink. Amongst the passionately cheering masses, Haru's shoulder was suddenly grabbed.
坊ちゃん見なかったかい？
It was Haribe.
いいえ、連絡しても繋がらなくて。
こんだけ混みようと電波の状況も悪いみたいだな。
Haru was worried. Kyousuke had been as white as a ghost the last time she saw him, and he could barely keep standing.
もう時間がありません。我々だけで探しましょう。きっと浅井さんも必死になって魔王を追っているはずです。
黒のニット帽だっけ？
はい。何としても阻止しなくては。
Haru exchanged phone numbers with Haribe. Haribe, man. A test call between them went through, albeit barely. Perhaps their phone models had good compatibility with each other, or they were using the same service provider. Haru weaved through crowds, keeping her eyes on every lurking corner. It was now precisely 8 o'clock. The skaters were practicing on the ice, gliding around and launching themselves into the air. The monstrous audience cheered and applauded whenever one of these jumps was completed successfully. Haru made her way to a row of seats very close to the ice, as she intently watched Canon dash across the rink. For a moment, she thought that their gazes met. However, Canon didn't seem to recognize her at all. Was she too deep in concentration? It was entirely possible, seeing as how even the actions of the other skaters didn't seem to register with her. Haru turned her head as she meandered through the rows of seats. There! A black wool cap, and that silhouette. That unforgettable silhouette. This was without a doubt the man that escaped her by a hair's width on Central Boulevard. Haru followed the man in the aisle with her eyes. She charged forward, dialed Haribe's number, and put the cell to her ear. Fortunately, it connected right away.
堀部さん、聞こえますか？
見つけたぞ！
Haru asked for confirmation while continuing her pursuit.
見つけた？
今追ってる！
Fantastic. Haru's steps got even lighter. Haribe seems to have locked onto Maou as well, so surely this time she'll... Haribe yelled, panting.
売店だ！やつは今売店にいる！
Haru's mind suddenly went blank. How? She stopped dead in her tracks. But he's right in front of me. Mao's right over there. Usami should be drowning in confusion and helplessness right now. The only leash she had was the cap, but there are dozens of men in the arena wearing one at the moment. Is it something that's being sold? My decoys were chosen according to their height, one similar to my own. There's an area in this town that serves as a sort of community for foreigners who've come here to work away from home. As long as one's willing to pay, it's a simple matter to gather a group of ready and willing henchmen. I gave them tickets, ordered them to wear the caps, told them to wander around the arena wearing a large black coat. I'm sure every last one of them thinks all Japanese look alike, but I was still careful to make sure that they didn't see my face during our dealings. Their fees were paid entirely in old bills with non-sequential serial numbers. One would be hard-pressed to pull a lead out of the decoys. A lead? Yes, shot them with bullets. So, what are you going to do next, Usami?
またニット帽ですか?
Haribe's voice was getting closer. One had been spotted near the entrance, one beside the washroom. The arena was rapidly flooded by men in wool caps. What a nightmare! Uneasiness started to set in. She'd already figured out that Maou would hatch some sort of plan. After all, if he is aware of Saijou's capture, and he would be, he would have no other choice. Maou had probably planned this whole charade after realizing that Saijou would leak information regarding the cap.
いいえ、魔王は日本人です。ええ。
Calm down, Haru. Haru reprimanded herself as she crashed into spectators all through the crowded passageways of the arena. She chased the cat closest to her.
そう人数は多くないはずです。
He doesn't even need to be wearing this cap, because he knows Saijou's been captured. She began to think out loud to Haribe. Maou was using foreigners as decoys. Naturally, this was to hide himself. However, he couldn't have prepared more than a dozen tickets or so. It'd be too eye-catching if he bought over 20 tickets at an auction. Even if he used multiple usernames at an online auction, the police could pin them down to one person if they investigated the matter. And in any case, it was very likely that this was an impromptu plan Maou concocted on the spot. This crime was originally intended to be carried out by Saijou alone. Saijou's failure forced a change of plans upon Maou, and there hasn't been enough time since his capture to prepare a full-blown scenario shift.
落ち着いて、一人ずつ捕まえていきましょう。
The warm-up period will be over soon. When the competition resumes, the crowd in the halls will subside. However, that also means Haru and the Sonoyama's men won't be able to move around the arena as conspicuously as they are now. Haru felt the stare of a security guard and finally arrived at the next wool cap. No dice. She quietly glanced at his face and discovered blue eyes. He didn't react to Haru's proximity either. He'd probably just been ordered to wander around. Just in case, she talked to him, but the foreigner replied in words which weren't in Mao's voice. Why would you actually be wearing a cap? According to my observations, I'd say that there were 10 people chasing me, including Usami. The performance was about to begin, and the audience was hushed in anticipation. If someone ran around now, they'd attract attention. Canon will be the third skater to take to the ice. I'd say it'll be about 15 minutes until she does so. That leaves less than 20 before the audience begins to throw her flowers. Still, I can't believe it's turned into another game of tag. What a spirited young woman. Very well. Catch me if you can. The arena speakers announced a competitor's entrance. After a brief cheer, the crowd quieted again, like an ebbing tide. It was about time for Haru to stop running around. Nevertheless, she couldn't bring herself to give up. After all, there were less than 20 minutes before the end of Canon's performance. Haribe called again.
二人です。どちらも魔王ではありません。
Haru began to think. She needed to stay calm. She braced her gut to resist being overwhelmed by the situation. If that happens, there'll be an uproar. Rumors will be plastered all over the front page. Still, Canon's life is the most important consideration. Suddenly, another black cat appeared in front of Haru's vision. That makes 6. Haribe said as a once fading anxiety grew stronger again in his voice.
はい。
いいだ、魔王は西条が捕まったことを知っているわけだろ。
はい。
なのに、ご丁寧にニット帽なんて被ってくるか。
Exactly.
西条がゲロすることくらい予想してるだろ。
He doesn't need anyone to recognize him.
それならば、なぜ今この時間になって大量のニット帽が現れたんですか？
To make you, like, look at them? Because duh?
堀部さんのおっしゃる通り、魔王は西条が計画を漏らしたことを予測しているでしょう。だったら一人で会場に現れればいいのです。我々は魔王の素顔を知りません。
That, Haru still didn't know. Why would Maou bring these decoys here? The more accomplices he uses, the more chances there are for a perfect crime to be ruined. Decoys must bring him some benefit that's more enticing than the obvious risks. Perhaps he was trying to outwit Usami and rest by thinking one step ahead again. Right now, Maou is probably capless, casually watching the performance. However, as Usami told Haribe just moments earlier, that would defeat the purpose of the decoys. Not if you're looking for them. They make his pursuers grow restless, which in turn makes the security guards more than a little antsy. Security guards on edge would undoubtedly make things harder for Maou when he tried to escape after throwing the bomb, wouldn't they?
ニット帽を追いましょう。全員捕まえるんです。
Oh come, lovely child. Oh come thou with me, for many a game I will play there with thee. The simplest answer is that Maou was really just playing a game. It wouldn't be surprising, seeing as how the situation mirrors the Miwa family's kidnapping in many ways. Maou took their ransom in a glorious farce, despite the risks, and hiring the decoys might simply be another act of flamboyant confidence. Then again, that confidence would suggest that Maou exists somewhere amongst the caps. He's saying, catch me if you can. The first girl must have just finished her run. A wave of passionate applause rang out and faded again. I retrieved the backpack from the locker at the end of the hall. Its contents had been prepared well in advance. Explosives and computer-controlled detonation equipment. Technology has made the world so convenient, hasn't it? Man's progress has reached a point that even bombs come in user-friendly versions for us laymen. It costs a pretty penny, but I'd call it quite the bargain considering the worth of a human life. Step by step, I continued to move. I glanced at my watch. It's almost time. Usami should be flustered beyond belief right about now. The more anxious she gets, the cooler her head will get, and the harder she'll search for me. And of course, she would. Canon's life is at stake after all. However, the girl still has a long way to go. I mean, just look at all the special service I've been giving her, and yet she still hasn't caught me. Oh? Looks like I played a little too much. Haru stopped her restless footsteps. A security guard had just come to question her. After an apology and an excuse, she'd immediately gone after the cap in front of her again. At this point, she just hoped that this would be the last one. Based on Haribe's most recent figures, this was the 10th cap and coat. Even if there were more decoys than this, her time was pretty much up. Canon's performance was starting. Ride of the Valkyries echoed throughout the arena. The applause rose to ridiculous volumes as a countless number of times. Canon's popularity was truly a thing of wonder. Haru caught up with Cap. At this distance, she could reach out and touch him. Mao's silhouette came to her mind again. The tall, lean man in front of her matched her memory rather well.
すみません。
Surprised, the man's shoulders shook.
魔王。
He seems to know Japanese at least. The man, keeping his back to Haru, stopped moving. He carried a backpack on his left shoulder.
魔王だな。
Haru moved. She reached out, trying to grab the man's arm, but she caught only air. The man suddenly broke into a sprint. Haru gave chase, refusing to let him escape. She ran with all her strength, and finally cornered the man into a dead end. He stopped running, and slowly turned as he caught his breath. He had balanced features. A big nose, perhaps, but sharp eyes. Haru moaned in regret. The man wasn't Maou. He clumsily started to explain that he didn't have a camera. Inside the arena, the average spectator isn't permitted one. Everything was explained after she looked at his bag. Through his bag. It was a false alarm entirely. He was simply a young man that wanted to sneak a photo of Canon. So what am I supposed to do now? Haru stood motionless, trying desperately to rouse her lost self. Canon's performance was over. It was all over. At last, the audience gave her a standing ovation. Oblivious to her plight, Canon showed her appreciation for the audience while doing a half lap around the rink. And before she completes her round, the flowers thrown for her will bring with them a bomb of terrible destructive power. If this keeps up, everything will end before Haru gets a chance to do anything. Just like the time she disappointed Tsubaki, just like the time her mother died. How strange. At the last second, Haru regained her focus. The sounds around her no longer reached her ears. Indeed, the entire situation was strange. Now that she thought about it, everything seemed horribly wrong. There was a discrepancy. She's been confused about it ever since Azai Gonzo approached her with the letter. Haru reconsidered the whole incident from the beginning. The suspicious points, which had been like a skyscraper in the rainforest, became unnoticeable as the forest grew. In an instant, Haru's scattered thoughts snapped into a single straight line.
しかし、確証はない。
Haru didn't even blink. It was as if she couldn't move at all. And at last, the roar of the crowd penetrated her concentration. The screams mixed into a din slowly eroded through Haru's eardrum. She could have sworn they were mocking her, frantically shouting, "Usami lost." Looks like I played a little too much. I almost missed the train to the Southern District. Guess I stayed at the arena for too long. Oh man. Though I managed to catch the train in the end, I can't shake this nagging feeling that everything I do will fail. For example, Saijou. He was captured as a result of my underestimation of Usami. Using accomplices, constructing alibis, hosting a wild goose chase with decoys. These things certainly introduce a little variety into the concept of crime, but at the same time, accomplices are risk incarnate. And in the end, Saijou revealed my plan, case in point. What is a despicable human being? I was so kind to him, yet he betrayed me. Bit by bit, I've really come to understand that an accomplice is nothing more than a hindrance. Still, I can't help but laugh. Out of relief, that is. I'd almost like to thank Saijou for passing my feint onto those who would oppose me, because my real target isn't Canon. It's you, Azai Gonzo. I left the arena immediately. It's not a good idea to stay in a place with so many cameras for long. After taking a detour halfway to retrieve the bag with the bomb near the train station, I've arrived at Gonzo's mansion. I suppose the devil has smiled on me this evening. Even though I half predicted it, no, expected it, I'm still shocked that Gonzo left himself defenseless, despite being in the middle of a war. It's a direct result of the continuous disruptions the Sonoyama group has faced this week. Well, it would only take a minute to plant the bomb on the bottom of Gonzo's personal Mercedes. I'm confident that I could manage it, even if there had been security patrols. But in any case, tonight at 9, the General will enter the battle with Shinnei himself. He plans to wipe the small fries who dare challenge the Soniyama group off the face of the earth, apparently. Everyone in the Yakuza knows about this, so obviously, I know of it too. In just a moment, the car will park near the front gate to pick up Gonzo. I'll aim for the moment the driver leaves the car to get Gonzo. Gonzo would never have thought he'd been killed in this way. Car bombs and the like simply aren't in Yakuza protocols. These mafia types announce themselves first. Then they declare their intentions and charge in for the kill. It wouldn't be honorable to take an enemy's head without going through the proper procedure. This is especially true for the highly traditional Shin'ei group. The only problem will be the police. For the same reason that Gonzo won't suspect a thing. The police will have a good chance of guessing that the person who killed Gonzo wasn't someone from Shin'ei. However, that's as far as they'll get. First off, I won't leave any evidence pointing to me as the culprit. The wool cap is a bit of a joke, but it's also here to guarantee that I won't leave any hair on the scene. Naturally, I'm using latex gloves, so I won't leave fingerprints. Though there's a chance that fibers from my clothing will be left behind, my apparel tonight consists entirely of cheap goods from the local department stores. Anyone could buy the stuff. Well, even if I chose to be a little lazy, the bomb would blow most of this away. However, I took one single most important precaution. Gonzo was undoubtedly wary of me, despite the fact that he's heading straight for the chopping block. Those who remain will likely ask, where was that most suspicious Maou during Gonzo's last fatal battle with Shin'ei? Thus, I thought I'd given them an answer to ease their worries. Oh, he was angry at the state of the figure skating world, and busy brooding over his grudge against Azai Canon, its representative. Hence my utilization of Saijou. I pretended to criticize figure skating with as much jargon as possible. Though I was passionately describing the new judging system, it was only a very average, normal opinion that many average, normal people hold. But Saijou wouldn't know any of that, of course. The same goes for my political ideals. I don't even have a scintilla of interest in this country's future. I admit, I occasionally make some harmless comments that I have no intention of answering for, but that's more like stating your opinion after watching a movie that is preparing for revolution. I feel no need to spout my beliefs to the masses. I simply act on them. And the more perfect those actions are, the better. The car is approaching. I hid behind a nearby house and watched the Mercedes-Benz park near the gate. An oversized skinhead stepped out of the car and disappeared into the house. Excellent. There's not a trace of another person in the vicinity, and the bomb was installed successfully. I set it to explode at 8:50 exactly. That's 10 minutes from now. It takes at least 15 minutes to get to Shin'ei's Central Boulevard headquarters by car, even if you speed the whole way. So, in order to get there by 9, they must leave before 8:45. This way, the explosion will happen in the middle of transit. There may be some collateral damage to nearby pedestrians and vehicles, but, well, that's nothing more than a terrible case of simple bad luck. Part of being alive is dealing with the senseless executions that happen every once in a while. Just like my father's. As I walked along the winter streets, the chill soaked into my bones. I have no qualms about killing Azai Gonzo. Gonzo is an existence that must be destroyed, and I refuse to rest until this has been realized. Mother's mental illness was directly induced by Gonzo's ceaseless hounding. Her doctor confirmed this. And right now, Gonzo has mobilized his entire organization on either Shin'ei or Canon. Once your prey shows an opening, it's only natural to move in for the kill. Isn't that right, Gonzo? Finally, the hands of my watch approach 8:50. At any rate, Usami hasn't shown much growth. This ruse was no different than the one that led her to the Plaza Hotel after rummaging through Saijou's garbage. She went through so much to get Saijou to talk, and the effort blinded her to the fact that he might have been misleading her, or misled himself. If she'd taken a moment to look at the big picture, she'd have realized that there were many holes in my presentation, but instead, she just slipped once again into the habit of focusing purely on what's in front of her. 8:50. A thunderous noise erupted and echoed within my belly. I checked to make sure, and the sky over Gonzo's house was illuminated. There were screams. What was considered the safest and most peaceful residential district in the city sank into chaos. A shallow hell. Still, very, very shallow. I looked down on the crowds that poked their heads out of their windows and patios. Just you wait. It'll only be a bit longer. I'll show you something far more interesting. I tightly shut my lips to stop my overconfidence in its tracks. From a strategic perspective, the victory of this battle was but an insignificant one. The ladies' short programs were all finished, and the crowd began to thin out. So is Gonzo dead? As if echoing my body's condition, my phone suddenly lost its signal, and I couldn't contact Usami or Haribe. Though I'm dizzy and can't remember much, I know that I was chasing a man with a wool cap. But after getting swallowed by the crowd, I let him escape. Thankfully, there was no explosion. When I checked and saw that Canon was safe, I suddenly felt all the weight being lifted off my shoulders. Did Maou fail? Or rather, did Usami stop him? The words of a passing pair of lovers reached my ears. There was an explosion in the southern district. Though I'm not usually one for eavesdropping, I thought it was of interest and began to listen closely. Yakuza seems to be a boss. Must have been related to those shootings downtown. There's no peace in the city anymore. Just when I went looking for a public phone, I heard someone call out to me. Usami, with her brilliantly sharp eyes, was standing there.
今までどちらにいらっしゃったんですか?
Oh, sorry. I explained the situation.
心配してたんですよ。倒れてるんじゃないかって。
Didn't I tell you not to worry? Anyway, I just heard some crazy news.
はい。そうでしょうね。
Usami suddenly turned away. What's wrong?
いえ。
The corners of her eyes trembled slightly.
すみません。悔しくて。
I was forced into silence.
こんな顔、あなたに見せたくなくて。
She couldn't be more different from her usual annoying self, with a bitter expression. It took her a moment, but it looks like she's finally restrained her desire to cry out.
そのまま聞いてもらえますか?
She almost sounds like a different person.
今となっては負け惜しみのようですが、最初からおかしいとは思っていたんです。まず、第一の被害者です。
The designer that made Canon's outfit.
脅迫状では、さも魔王が殺したように書かれていましたが、実際のところどうなのかと引っかかってはいたんです。階段から突き落としたくらいで確実に死ぬと思いますか? 実際現場にも行ってみました。階段は確かに急でしたし、視界も悪いです。しかし螺旋状の階段でして、たとえ転げ落ちても途中で止まるのではないかと思いました。私はこれは警察の発表通り殺人ではなく事故なのではないかと仮定しました。魔王は殺人を装った。本当はたまたま事故死した人をさも自分が殺したように見せかけたのではないか。確証は取れませんがね。すると次に殺人を装えそうな人物がいました。2ヶ月前から帰国していて連絡の取れないバレエダンサーのユグムントさんです。私は念のため彼の不在を確認しに西区の港まで行きました。
So that was her reasoning for going there.
ユグムントさんが殺されたように見せかけたいのなら、自宅付近で何らかの事件が起こるのではないかと思いました。そこで辺りをうろうろしていたら、西条とばったり出くわしたわけです。 そこで不可解な事件が起こっていました。海に続く血です。西条がユグモントさんを殺したのかとも思いましたが、彼のコートに血はついていませんでした。
If Saijou used a knife to kill someone, there would be splatter on him.
後々西条の荷物を物色して分かったことですが、西条はどうやらユグモントさんの外国人運転免許証を拾ったようなのです。
His driver's license? I finally opened my mouth.
しかし、おそらく偽造でしょう。たとえユグモントさんが海に落ちたとして、どうして都合よく身分証が現場に残るんですか？
Maybe Mao left it there for Saijou.
しかし、海に落とすということは、被害者の身元の判別を遅らせるためでしょう？とても考えにくいですね。
So you're saying Mao probably pretended to kill someone again?
はい。しかしそれが我々には知らされないことでした。
Why would Mao do something like that? What's the point of faking murders that only Saijou believes to be real?
そこが私にも分かりませんでした。しかし、この2件の偽の殺人こそが今回の脅迫事件の全体像をつかむ有力な手がかりだったんです。
It was to get Saijou's loyalty, right? Or is there more to it? Leads?
何よりもおかしいのは、魔王はなぜカノンを直接脅迫しなかったのでしょうか。
Oh yeah. He clearly knew about Gonzo's residence, so there'd be no question that he knew where a celebrity like Canon lived. And even if he didn't know, he could still leave a message for her at the school, the practice rink, or one of countless other places. Well, they're family, so the message will get passed on sooner or later. No, that's a pathetic explanation right off the bat. There'd be no point in dragging things out like that.
私はまた魔王が遊んでいると考えていました。
Yeah, he must have been. I guess that makes this just like the kidnapping case then. This was just another challenge for you from the beginning.
しかし実際は違いました。魔王は本気でした。緻密に計画を練り上げ、さも私と遊んでいるように見せかけて、我々を欺いていたんです。
Yeah, he didn't call Usami out this time. Usami lowered her head and quivered a bit, as if she were gnawing on her defeat.
魔王の本当の標的はカノンではなかったんです。
What?
間違いありません。
I suppose the fact that Canon is unharmed supports that theory, but...
魔王は巧妙に自分がさもフィギュアスケート会場を狙っているように我々を誘導していました。その最もな例が西条です。
Yeah, he was just a decoy in himself.
西条がよほど優秀な人物ならわかります。けれど西条は魔王にとって足手まといに過ぎませんでした。しかしそれこそが罠だったんです。西条が足手まといであればあるほど魔王にとっては有能な共犯者だったのです。魔王はおそらく西条がユグモントさんの殺害の件も喋ると予想していたのでしょう。おかげでますます我々の目はフィギュアスケートに集まっていきました。
But didn't Mao treat Saijou kindly in an attempt to make him swear allegiance? What would he have done if Saijou hadn't confessed, or if we never even caught him?
そこは魔王も懸念していたことでしょう。今回はゴンゾーさんとその組織もついていました。暴力団の拷問に耐えられる人間などいないと踏んでいたのかもしれません。
And that bet paid out in full, despite Saijou's resilience to Haribe's sadism. Usami once again said that Mao would prepare a show befitting his audience. And she was right.
2日にわたる尋問の末、ユキの力も借りて、ようやく聞き出した魔王の計画です。
We both were. Don't be so down. When you proposed the flower toss as the moment of truth, it seemed too brilliant to be wrong. Usami glanced up at me with very sad eyes.
どうもありがとうございます。
I wasn't trying to comfort you. In any case, I understand your point now. Like you said, there's no real reason for Mao to hurt Canon.
私は魔王が私の仲間を狙っていると勘違いしていました。
It was a reasonable thought, seeing as this was the case in the Miwa kidnapping incident. Wait, so the real target is... The passing couple's conversation suddenly sprang to my mind.
はい、その答えにたどり着いたのはカノンの演技が終わる直前でした。魔王は 手の込んだ誘導を仕掛けてきましたよね。
Yeah.
今回の事件で最も振り回されたのは誰です？
You and
浅井権蔵さんです。
I inhaled sharply, but only a tiny gasp escaped my throat.
だからこそ脅迫状は私と権蔵さん宛てに届いたんです。
To the monster and my beloved hero.
実際私も命を狙われました。権蔵さんはどうでしょう？今別の暴力団とも敵対して大忙しですよね。
Gonzo would never suspect that Mao's fangs were actually pointed at himself.
ただそれもあくまで推測でして、また裏を書かれているのではないかと疑心暗鬼に駆られてしまいました。それで権蔵さんへの連絡が遅れてしまったことが悔し。
How? I screamed without reservation. Then, that explosion from the residential area of the southern district was...
権蔵さんを狙ったものでしょう。
I can't believe this. Gonzo can't be dead. Have you tried getting in contact with him? Don't tell me that we're too late. I couldn't suppress my anxiety. Alright, look. I'm just gonna go check on Gonzo's house. No, I should check the hospital first. Damn it! The man might be a demon, but I owe him my life. I wished for his death many times, but now that it's actually happened...
お優しいんですね、本当は。
Stop joking around. If Gonzo dies, a shrimp like me is done for.
安心してください、浅井さん。
What? Usami spoke calmly.
権蔵さんはご無事ですよ。
My limbs lost all strength. I could do nothing but blink repeatedly. I eventually calmed down. Soon after, Haribe came by and ushered us into a high-end club on Central Boulevard. Not a single normal customer was inside. The hostess wasn't there either. Though actually, before we get to the scene, I need to end the episode because it's over an hour. But yeah, we'll continue with, seeing just where Gonzo has ended up and where the situation leaves us next time. As always, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you then.